Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad you're here on this Tuesday morning. Folks, we're 10 days away from Christmas Day, so I hope you're getting, hope you already found my present, already got it in the mail, but if not, you ain't got but 10 more days to get it. So get on out there and do some local shopping with our local folks, and we would all appreciate it, and that's a win-win for everyone. Let's move on to our weather today. High of 65, low of 53. It's going to be a really nice day. Water temperature is hanging in there around 65 degrees, so looking good. Our river reading is brought to us by Mountain Dew. Get out and do, and I didn't get out and do the river reading, so I don't have them this morning. So I promise you I'll get them for you tomorrow. A tide chart brought to us by the good folks at Kent Forest Funeral Home and Cemetery. Those are really good folks down there. They've been with us a long time, and they take care of a lot of family situations. So get in touch with them when you need to. It's going to be a good tide. Low tide is at 7:17 right after the show. It's coming in all day until about 8:09 tonight. Really strong tides. They're looking good. Our marine forecast will be coming southeast about 6. So not going to be blowing as bad as it did last week. So we're looking good today on the whole weather forecast. Looks pretty good if you want to get out after your Christmas shopping. All right, we're going to take a break. We've got a special guest here in Studio B, so let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
Surprise! You know, I was just thinking, you know that you're big time when you can just do the introduction and then you're done. You turn it over to the peons to do the actual, show for you.
Really? Who are you?
We just came in off the street. The guy, does the introduction, says, "Here, do the show." So good morning.
Good morning.
I guess we can talk about our last excursion, since this was thrown on us kind of a little bit. I'd sent Jeff some pictures about, I think it was the redfish and the trout that we caught.
Oh, we had a slam.
Oh, that's right. We did. We had a slam. We had a flounder, which was 12 inches, which we released. But in fact, was that the only 3 fish we caught?
I got a snakefish.
And we did that together. So that was a real impressive trip. But once again, we worked our way into a place where we were convinced the fish were going to be.
Yep.
Threw everything in the tackle box.
Yep.
Found warmer water.
Right. Well, things have changed since the last time that we did the show. You remember how the water was about 70, and we were still on the flats, and we were still fishing a lot of the same places that we fished 2 or 3 months ago, but the water had gotten a little bit cooler, and they were active, and we slayed them, And since that time, when you have a couple of jobs, you can't really go every day. So 2 weeks later, we go fishing, and then the water was 10 full degrees cooler than it was the last time that we went.
That's right.
So guess what? 10 degrees makes a huge difference. It was a lot cleaner, but it was cool, and so they moved. I don't know exactly where they moved to. They weren't where they used to be, and there was a few, I guess, where we were. But remember, we had some really weak tides that day when we went fishing. We barely were able to get up into the bayou that we fished in, and eventually found a couple of fish, but it was a lot slower than we thought it would be. But now that the water's gotten cool, if it stays the same, we should be able to find them, and they should be gathered up, But until we get stability, unless you've got some secret spots that they go into no matter what, it's a little more fishing and a little less catching. I mean, that's what it was for us that particular day. So it wasn't exciting until we got to the one place over there where I told you that we normally find redfish, and
So you'll take credit for the one redfish that I caught in there. Is that it? So yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway, you know, it was a perfect plan. We worked our way into this place. We worked our way into the back where the water was 3 degrees warmer than it was, you know, out in the open bay, and thought that things were just going to be perfect, and they weren't. Well, I mean, we still had a good time. We fished everything in the book, but, you know, they just weren't there. But going back to Winston and I actually made a trip a week or two ago to Appalach when you were in South Florida, and we gave that a shot over there. And what started out the night before as a perfect day, we had a perfect tide. The wind, believe it or not, switched around, started blowing out of the south, 14 or 15 knots, just completely the wrong way. We had to go to different areas and hunt different places, and we finally found fish, and we wound up catching fish, and I think came out with one limit. We went to Apalachicola, came out with a limit, but because Miss Gail wanted fish, and we didn't really catch any dinks, but we didn't catch any fish over 16 or 17 inches. You know, they were all right around that 15, 16 mark. So, you know, that's still, I'm looking forward to when we can go over there and make that first trip with the perfect conditions, you know, and fish that. But go back now to just a little bit before all this, when you went and I couldn't go, and then you and your bride went like the following day. I mean, that was just absolute magic. You just slayed the fish, right?
Yeah.
2 days worth.
The water was 70 or 71 degrees. The first time that I went, me and my fishing rods, it was just amazing, the water, you know, from the amount of rain and stuff that we had. The water started clearing up a little bit, and they were so active. The temperature was 70, 71, 72, and a lot of people don't think about when you get a bottom machine, especially when you're going to start fishing this time of year, which is totally different, patterns are different, check the temperature. How many times do you and I go and, you know, in the winter, and then you go find it, and as soon as you find that water's a little bit warmer, they can feel it, you know. The same thing happened the last time that I went with my bride, because the water, it had gotten a little cooler, right? And the place that we were fishing, catching all the fish 4 or 5 days before that, they weren't there. So I moved over on the other side of the bayou where the sun was hitting, just using a little logic.
You actually were blocked a little bit from that wind.
The water was a couple of degrees warmer, and there was fish. So, you know, just think, what does a human being do when you're sitting in the shade and the sun is hitting and you're cold? You move into the sun, just like you move out of the sun when it's hot. Well, the same thing applies to the fish. I guess it seems to work. You know, so they talk about science, you know. So
those 2 trips you were using
twitch bait.
Yeah.
Twitch bait, and she was throwing the you know, Cajun Thunder, because she can't really, her arms aren't strong enough to keep the twitch bait out of the thing without getting frustrated without the bottom. So, but she was slaying them on the Cajun Thunder.
Okay. Yeah. And it's still a great bait to fish with.
Yeah, no doubt.
They're still in a boat with us, regardless who's there. All right, we are going to take a moment to pay the bills and take this break, and Lord only knows who'll be here when we come back. Okay, welcome back. Well, unfortunately, you still got us, so let's try to work our way through another segment here. We were just, again, talking off camera. It gets really funny. We got a little nostalgia for that applies to both of us. But
I'll never forget when I was a kid, just like you. You know, we worked in the restaurant at night, so we didn't get through working in the restaurant, getting cleaned up till probably 10 o'clock at night. But my dad was an avid fisherman, as everybody knows, and so we would go to the Deer Point Dam. at night. And I don't remember really ever checking the tides. Okay, we went out there. The water was open, so you had fresh water pouring into the.
Yeah, when especially when the drawdown was taking place or the dam was open at any time.
Yeah, so we got out there, and we used either a broken back lure, Rapala, or later on when they came out, we used mirror lures, and we would cast out, and then the line would float out. So as the line was going out, we used fly line wax. And we would put fly line wax on the line about every third cast. And you would just kind of pull it out slow, and you'd let that thing go out there a couple of 100 yards. And we would have a rod about every 6 or 8 feet. And so after it got out there, and then we would see the line tighten up, you would lean over the dam. I used to take my wife out there when she was pregnant with Stephanie, my oldest daughter, who's now, she'll be 42 in March.
Your wife and Stephanie are going to be real proud of you for bringing that up. So go ahead.
and so we would lean over and just, real jerk and just make that lure go down a little bit and pop up. And when they were biting, sometimes you'd hook up and they'd tear off, and then you'd keep doing it. Sometimes you might hook up and tear off 4 or 5 times before you got up to the dock. And we caught just so many trout. I think one time we had 235 pounds of trout in 10 nights. So you wonder why they put limits on. Yeah. But my dad was one of those fillet and release guys anyway, so he until I made him change.
They didn't much believe in the release.
Well, there wasn't any.
Then.
There were no limits. There was no limits on anything then, and but we ate everything we caught. I mean, it wasn't like we wasted it or we gave them away. But interesting. There would be other people fishing out there, and had some really funny stories. One of the times that we were fishing out there, my dad was working his lure, and of course, mirror lure didn't have that many colors then, but he had one that was kind of a clear silver. I don't even know if they still make it, okay, but it was effective. And I don't know how many times he retied that lure, and he was using it. And one night, he's bringing in a fish, and he got cut off, and he was
not pleased,
mad. And so anyway, we would go out there. When they were biting, we might go 3 times in a week. Oh, yeah. Sometimes I'd fish till 2 o'clock in the morning, then have to go to my other job at 8 in the morning. But when you're in your 30s, you can do that. So we get out there 2 or 3 nights later. This guy comes walking up to my dad. He goes, "Mike," I go, "What?" And he handed him the lure that he had lost 2 or 3 days before that, because he caught the fish and he said it was right here on the trout's face, and that guy caught that same fish. So he got his lure back 2 or 3 days later, which pretty interesting.
A kind of a community of people that fished out there. You got to know everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
And, it's a little territorial. You had like your spots, but Dad would take me out there, when I wasn't very old at all, and he'd always take a blanket, because eventually I'd start freezing, and I'd be up, under the dam, and him wrapping me up. But you could throw, shrimp with a cork and just throw it as far as you could. And same thing, just let it go. Mm-hmm. And then Dad fished a mirror lure, but he also fished, and I think our dads did those tandem rigs with the two. They were like bass worms, straight bass worms that they cut in half.
Yellow with black spots.
And or purple with something, and Dad would walk up and down fishing that. But we fished there many, many nights. That and the old steam plant where we would drive as far as we could get, and then have to walk in there, right. Which was a long way. And half the time Dad would wind up, walking in, carrying the shrimp and the stuff like that. And, me half the time coming out, just to get in there and fish, because I was so small. Being substantially younger than you are, it was, I was a lot younger back then when we went. So
doesn't look like to me.
We fished, we fished all the time like that and half freezing. And I remember my hands were so cold that I had had a fish and lost it and wound up dropping the rod. And Dad, for some reason, was prepared. He had a snatch hook with the lead on it, was able to drop down and pick that up. I don't know if he anticipated that. I don't think it was there just for the heck of it, but those are memories that just, I'll never forget, as many times as he took me, it was absolutely amazing. So a little, stroll down memory lane. All right, let's go ahead and take this quick break, and we'll come right back and wrap this up. Hey, and welcome back. All right, so it is us again. Fishing Game Time.
Yeah, Fishing Game Time is brought to you by Blue Water Outfitters from Port St. Joe. 11:44 a.m. to 1:44 p.m. is the prime time. So make sure you're out there and ready, and hopefully the weather and the wind won't be blowing. So.
We'll cooperate. So before I forget it, tomorrow Winston will be on. I know you're going to be glad to hear that, but he's going to have some kids from North Bay Haven out on this Bay Watch program doing some restoration, and he's going to have some film, and it'll be great to see what's going on out here in our bay. So be sure, I know you will, but be watching tomorrow when that comes on. I think you really find that interesting. But I was told to ask about that little trout you caught several years ago out there in Kings Point. So
reminiscing. The wintertime, it's so much different than fishing, up in your bios than fishing on the flats. And so I was up in when I used to live in Kings Point years ago. I haven't lived there in 20 years. I had a couple different spots in there. I'd go in there and fish, and I used to keep a styrofoam cooler with live shrimp in my Florida room with an aquarium pump to keep them alive, because it would be too cold outside to leave them in the live bait bucket in the bio. So that way they stayed in the, so I was pretty.
Just in case you had 5 minutes to fish.
Yeah, talk about being anal. Okay, so I wanted my shrimp alive. And two different stories. One of them, I went in there in one particular morning, got one that's in Winston's book. That fish was 10 pounds, 2 ounces. I got one also the same day that was 8 pounds, and must have been the male and female or whatever, but amazing, that those fish would have been in there, and that was, probably 20-something years ago. But the best story was fishing in the same place at a different time. Went out there one morning and put the live shrimp, you got to hook it right under the collar so you don't kill it. Toss it out there. Fish, 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 no bite. Probably threw it out there 3 or 4 times, but gentle toss. You can't slam it, you'll kill the bait. Well, anyway, never got a bite. So reel it back in and thought, the shrimp is, in my hand. So I said, shoot, I unhooked it and I threw it back in the live well in my bucket that I took out there. Come back, tried it, and anyway, that was at the end of the trip. Come back home, pour that stuff back into my styrofoam cooler in the Florida room. Of course, that shrimp is swimming around. I thought, man, that's a bionic shrimp. Next morning, go in there, still alive. Take them, go try it again before work, slip the hook through the same hole in the shrimp, take it out there, throw it out there, caught a fish. So, those things die so easy. And that particular time, that shrimp lasted from one day to the next. Now,
I don't know why the word cheapskate keeps jumping in my head, but the guy's saving and reusing live shrimp. But okay, never mind.
Many moons ago,
yeah,
So, but anyway, and would still do it today. I haven't bought a live shrimp in probably 15 years. God knows what the cost. And some people, they love to use them, but we fish artificials. But that was when you're fishing in small, tight spots and you're not moving. You're fishing from the shore, and you can't cover a lot of water. you probably, throwing the shrimp in the water, you're gonna bring the bait, the fish to you, I guess. So, but anyway, that was interesting to have that happen. But it did happen. And
yeah, that's if you've got Winston's book, Full Box, it's that's in there, the picture of that fish, and if you don't, you ought to have it. That is a great book. It is, however, incomplete. It needs a second edition because Greg's in there, and Bill Shields is mentioned, and Matt and Justin, but there's a great void in there where somebody else isn't mentioned. I'm not going to say who, but they do need another book. Okay, how much time we got, Jeff? Where are we at here? What is that? I got a minute. I just want to say one thing. You may not see us again before the beginning of the year, but I saw Red Holland last week on the show, and he brought this up. We both, in a lot of Panama City, lost a real good friend to a boating accident, and one of the main reasons was because he wasn't wearing a life jacket and he didn't have a kill switch on. And I've been lax a few times in the past, but I don't get in a boat anymore without having those two things. It's a simple act. If you go out of that boat for whatever reason, that motor's going to stop running, and a lot of bad things can happen. So if you make New Year's resolutions, get a jacket you can wear and keep that kill switch on. It can make a major difference in your life and the lives of the people that you love. So, look, God bless you. Thanks for listening, and I hope you tune in tomorrow. See you later.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.